Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of The Role of Law. This is not just another edition, this is the first edition for the year 2021, and as such, from the onset of the program, I would like to wish all our viewers out there a very happy new year. Of course, with new year comes new challenges, and to face these challenges, especially in the legal field, the Bar Association of Sri Lanka is one of the most important bodies that gets involved in these matters. The election of the Bar Association is just around the corner for the years 2020 and 2021. Two candidates have already announced their candidacy. The current chairman of the Junior Bar Committee, President Counsel Saliya Pieris, and the deputy president, former deputy president of the Bar Association, President Counsel Saliya Pieris. And today on our show to discuss his candidacy at the election of the Bar Association this year, we've got with us President Counsel Saliya Pieris. A very good evening, sir, and welcome to the show.
Good evening.
Sir, you've already begun your campaign. Your campaign began somewhere around last year. And during your campaign, you continuously continued to stress on the importance of the independence of the Bar Association. What is your reason exactly to stress so much on the independence of the Bar Association? Is the Bar Association not independent right now? Is there a possibility of the independence of the Bar Association being in jeopardy in the future?
So my view on the independence of the Bar Association is that I think that you need an independent bar. If you need the bar to play the role it ought to play. Both, and being independent helps the legal profession and also the society at large. Because Sharon, if the bar is not independent, that would be a threat to the rule of law and to the independence of the judiciary. Now, my position is that the bar must maintain its independence, and any person who is elected to the leadership of the bar must be a person who is independent and who does not compromise his independence. So, if someone has compromised his independence, then that is a serious issue. Now, why do you need an independent bar? It is, if the bar is independent, it can point out where, when a government does something which contravenes the rule of law, which impedes the independence of the judiciary, then the bar would be in a position to point out and say, no, this, on a matter of principle, this ought not to be done in this way. Whereas, if the bar is not independent, then you will find the bar remaining silent on key issues pertaining to the country. Because then the bar which is not independent, a person who leads a bar who is not independent would have other interests to secure. And that, I say, would compromise the objectives of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka.
There are many other associations that represent professional bodies here in Sri Lanka, and there have been allegations leveled that these associations that represent various other professional bodies are beginning to incline themselves politically. I haven't heard too many of those being leveled at the Bar Association. Is that currently the status? Is the Bar Association independent? Is there a risk of the Bar Association?
Historically, the Bar Association has been known for its independence. And of course, there are times when there have been criticism as to the independence of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. There are times when it has been felt that not enough has been done to maintain its independence. Well, as to whether there is a risk in the future, that is to be judged. But what is important is to ensure that the bar remains independent. And when I say independent, it must be independent politically. It must not delve into party politics. But it must be able to take up a principled position on issues. So whether it be the rule of law, the independence of the judiciary, very importantly, fundamental rights of the people, it is important that the bar takes a position. So for instance, Sharon, we talk of police brutality. We talk of deaths in custody.
Right.
The bar must take a position on these issues. If the bar does not take a position on issues such as deaths in custody, independence of the judiciary, then that's a serious problem. So then one must look at the history this is, you spoke about an election.
Yes.
And look at the history of the candidates. And have the candidates taken up positions in respect of these issues in the past? There was the impeachment of the Chief Justice, the removal of the Chief Justice. There was the attack on the courts in Manor.
Yes.
There have been numerous instances. What have the positions of the respective candidates been? Now, why I say this is, Charlotte, leadership means you must take up a position on matters. If you don't take up a position, if you don't, for instance, the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. Now, categorically, I took up a position. I highlighted certain issues which I felt was relevant to the bar, and which had it would compromise the independence of the judiciary.
Right.
So, among the matters which I highlighted was by letter to the Bar Association, I requested the Bar Association to look at these issues. The immunity of the President. Because what was there in the proposal was to restore the immunity which was there pre-19th Amendment.
Yes.
Then the issue of the appointment of judges, the issue of appointment of independent commissions. And there were certain matters which we identified which relates to the Bar Association, which relates to the Bar, and I wrote to the Bar Association suggesting that the Bar must intervene. So thereafter a committee was appointed. A committee report was considered by the Bar Council, and the Bar Council itself also I made certain proposals there too, and some of them were incorporated into the suggestions. So my position is, when you are a leader, you must take a position. If you don't take a position, if you say, well, either way it's all right, or you refrain from taking up a position, that is not leadership. And so my position would be, a leader of the bar must take up a position on issues, must take a principled stand.
And an independent position.
And an independent position based on principle. And what are the principles? These are the principles enshrined in the Constitution. The rule of law, the independence of the judiciary, the fundamental rights of the people. These are all set out in the Constitution. And it is the duty of the Bar Association to honor those objectives found both in the Constitution of the BASL and in the Constitution of Sri Lanka.
President Counsel Saliya Pieris, you spoke about writing to the Bar Association regarding the 20th Amendment. There was a positive response. A report was compiled. It was presented in court. Recently, you kept on writing to the Bar Association regarding the closure of courthouses. What has been the response like from the Bar Association?
Well, to be fair, by the Bar Association, I think there have been certain steps which have been taken to try to normalize the operations of the courts. But I think as a whole, the legal profession, the response of the legal profession, and of course of the judiciary also, I think we were not prepared for this closure of courts. So naturally, the first wave, the entire country was taken by surprise.
Yes.
And now we have the second wave, and so the closure is problematic. The closure is problematic. There are many members of the profession who have been affected, but more than not only the members of the profession, but also litigants who have their cases delayed as a result of the closure. They are most certainly affected. Cases are piled up. So, but the good news is that the system is now responding to it. For instance, Shalan, I am told that there are rules being prepared to ensure that the courts are able to function even sometimes remotely in certain cases where, so that by the use of electronic means for that purpose, rules are being prepared. So certainly I think because in my view, the courts of the country, especially the apex courts, cannot close down. And so the examples I cite is, for instance, in the United States of America, the American Supreme Court carries out its deliberations by teleconferencing.
Right.
In India, we have found numerous cases, not only absolutely urgent cases, but cases that have been taken up remotely. Of course, certainly, perhaps as a country, we are not as tech savvy as we ought to be.
We're not far into the digital age as yet.
So certainly we cannot perhaps compare the American situation or the British or the Indian situation. But certainly we must now, because now we have COVID. We do not know what next. So we must gear ourselves so that our system continues and is not subject to these obstructions.
Since we're speaking about the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, the members of the Bar Association are the people who are going to vote at this election and elect a new president of the Bar Association. One of the most adversely affected groups of the Bar Association membership are the junior lawyers, the people who have just entered the profession and whose entire career has stopped short, especially because of COVID-19, and also given the fact that the Bar Association or the legal profession continued to take a lot of people. There was a huge amount of lawyers that were being pumped into the system. Now, with these new challenges coming into light and being multiplied by the COVID-19 pandemic, if you are elected as the president, what will your measures be to address these issues?
Yes. So one thing I am of the view is that as a profession, we must look for enhancing the opportunities available to young lawyers. And that starts also from the training. The training given to young lawyers at law college. Of course, there is something which the bar can intervene, but it is the Council of Legal Education. But I think the bar should get proactively involved in suggesting ways and means of improving how we train those who enter the profession.
Speaking on that point, just a side question, there were a number of reports that were compiled. These reports were compiled, the committee, I believe, included the current Minister of Justice as well, President Counsel Saliya Pieris. But these reports were just limited to reports. Did they really practically be?
Not really, Shalan. Some of those, I was also in that committee.
Right.
Some of those recommendations are being incorporated into a gazette. They are being implemented. They are being implemented.
Right now, currently.
Right
it's
now,
an ongoing process.
It's an ongoing process.
Okay.
But my proposal is that you must also look at enhancing the opportunities available for members, for especially young lawyers. Now, for example, we talk of tax. Now, by law, lawyers are entitled to be involved in representing their clients in respect of tax matters. But in practice, we have very few lawyers. Actually, the revenue law at law college is almost a dying subject. But we must look at how, so I'm just giving you one example, look at how we can improve the opportunities enhance the opportunities available. Look at new avenues where members of the profession can be guided into. So we talk of corporate law in the corporate sector. You have to look at our training process. How do we add value to each and every member so that they can perform in their chosen sector.
Right.
And for that, I think the Bar Association has a huge role to play. At the moment, we have these webinars. There are certain online certificate courses. But my proposal, in fact, it is in the manifesto which I have put forward. We propose that continuing legal education must be enhanced greatly, and it must be not just a matter of a few seminars here and there, but every district there must be proper continuing legal education. And my proposal is to get more members of the bar involved. Bring in more members of the bar as resource personnel, so to train young lawyers. So my view is one way of looking at it is to enhance the opportunities. Secondly, I have proposed a mentorship program.
Right.
So there are many lawyers who don't have seniors. They don't have the guidance of seniors. Unfortunately, our apprenticeship system is not as focused as the medical profession, the medical interns, or the article clerk, the clerkship in the chartered accountants. Now, what I suggest is that we enhance our apprenticeship program. We ensure that the practical training must be really practical. Of course, because of this COVID, there have been difficulties, but it must be more practical oriented. And I suggest a mentorship program where young lawyers are put in touch with seniors who are willing to guide them and who are willing to give them guidance, so that you have constantly young lawyers are supported by seniors. Of course, for that we need the commitment of seniors in the profession also, and I think we would be in a position to encourage seniors to get involved and in this program.
Sir, what you spoke of was a bit of a long-term process. It will take time for these measures to be implemented. But currently, there are junior lawyers and there are members of the legal profession who are suffering because of the closure of courthouses, the COVID-19 pandemic, and all of these matters combined. What is your solution to these members of the Bar Association?
Yes, in fact, I suggested to the Bar Association that the Bar should get involved in the very short term in assisting juniors. Now, in certain foreign countries, there have been programs. For example, in the United Kingdom, the Inns of Court have been involved in helping young junior barristers during the pandemic. So, the Bar Association should have a program. And by this, I don't mean any ad hoc program, just for during election time, but a durable process by which the bar steps in to help juniors in the profession in a situation such as the pandemic. Already the Colombo Law Society has stepped in. The Colombo Law Society stepped in a big way to assist young lawyers who are in financial difficulty during this time. There is an association called the Young Lawyers Association.
Yes.
Young Lawyers Association, it is not part of the Bar Association. It consists of several young lawyers in the profession, such as Mr. Nuwan Bopage, Mr. Tanukananda Siri, and Migara Dos, and there are a few of them who are involved. They set up a program as far as March this year,
right,
where they got in touch with young lawyers who were affected by who found it difficult to survive during the pandemic, and they very discreetly assisted these young lawyers. No publicity, nothing, not on Facebook, not on TV, but
right,
very discreetly assisted. I think many young lawyers benefited from that. Right. So my position is that that this could also be done by the Bar Association, and of course, it has to be done in a way which has to be discreet. You don't need to give it. It's not for the sake of publicity, but to assist young juniors. Unofficially, this is happening among members of the legal profession. But I think in the very short term, I think that is one way in which assistance could be made. But of course, we must understand that the better way is to try to open up the court system. Rather than the financial assistance, there is so much you can give, and that will end with that. But I think the better way is to actively look at ways of opening up the court system to restore some degree of normalcy to the system. Of course, while looking after the health and safety of the members and the public at large.
So, moving a little bit away from the content of your manifesto, there has been an allegation leveled against you that you are anti-government, that you are pro-NGO. Most of these allegations are founded on the fact that you were the chairman of the Office on Missing Persons, the former chairman of the Office on Missing Persons. What is your response to these allegations?
So I think the Office on Missing Persons is misunderstood. The Office on Missing Persons is not a non-government organization. It is an institution of the state. The state established this. The history of the Office on Missing Persons is Sri Lanka has a history of people disappearing during times of conflict.
Right.
Not only in the north, but also in the south. In the 87-89, in fact, it is the present Prime Minister who played a key role in highlighting the issue of the missing people in the south. And for instance, Shalan, you have heard of the Ambilipitia students case, where students from Ambilipitia school disappeared, went missing. So Sri Lanka has a problem with people who are missing. It's a humanitarian problem, because there are thousands of families who want to know what happened to their loved ones. Now, the present Prime Minister, when he was President, appointed the LLRC. The LLRC, one of the recommendations of the LLRC, headed by Mr. C.R. De Silva, President's Counsel, the former Attorney General, was that there must be a permanent institution to look at the issue of the missing. So that is how the Office on Missing Persons was created. That is the history. The purpose of the Office on Missing Persons is not to prosecute. In fact, it does not bring in criminal or civil liability. But its purpose is humanitarian. Its purpose is humanitarian, to try to give relief to the families of the missing and to help the families to bring closure. So I was appointed as chairman on the recommendation of the Constitutional Council. It was by the President of Sri Lanka. All reports of the OMP were given to the President of Sri Lanka. All reports submitted to Parliament. And in fact, Charlotte, because of that institution, it's a domestic institution. The people who opposed the institution mainly were those who said they want international intervention.
Right.
And they don't want a domestic mechanism. So in the north, when we traveled to the north, there were people demonstrating, saying no OMP, we want international intervention.
Right.
So the people who try to criticize me for my role in the OMP are misguided. I say that and among what is not known is, among the missing are 5,100 persons missing in action of the Sri Lanka Army. We have had family members of the armed forces coming to us. As much as there are families in the north, in the east, in the south, in Mathura, there were families who came to us.
Right.
There have been members of the armed forces. So the OMP is not it is not an NGO. The remuneration of all commissioners was decided by Parliament. It is in line with all the other commissions. It is not a non-government organization. I must say this, Charlotte. These people who are trying to use this, I have, speaking for myself, I have never profited from any NGO. I have not profited from any non-government organization. The OMP, I took it as a responsibility, as a because I was requested to take it on, because they wanted a person who was moderate in that office, and that is why I took that office. And I want to say this is propaganda. This is propaganda in line with the Goebbels propaganda of the Nazis, that you go on saying a lie hoping that the public will believe it, right? So I have to say that I reject these allegations, and I know that the vast majority of the members of the bar know who I am and know that my service to the bar is such that these sort of rumors and mudslinging will not hold water.
So, moving back to some of the proposals that have been mentioned in your manifesto, there was a section specifically dedicated to issues of female lawyers in the Bar Association. What are your proposals like?
Yeah, so female lawyers, we have to acknowledge that there is a disparity. That you have the female lawyers have certain issues which are unique, which prevent them from getting the best from the profession,
right,
and prevents a profession from getting the best of the female lawyers. To a large extent, in the state sector, in the Attorney General's department, in the judiciary, there is this is being remedied somewhat. But when you look at the private bar, still, if you take female counsel in Colombo, relatively few. Relatively few. And so female lawyers have issues. So we have suggested that there must be a separate standing committee on women, and comprising of women lawyers who will actively look at the issues faced by the female lawyers and make recommendations on how the profession can get the maximum from the female lawyer. We have also proposed that one of the issues which prevents lady lawyers from obtaining the best of the profession is the fact that sometimes when they marry and when they have children, there are issues relating to childcare.
Right.
So we are proposing that the Bar Association must get involved, and I'm sure we can get the assistance of the authorities and even of other organizations, and to look at establishing a daycare center for lawyers. For lawyers' children, and of course it's not only female lawyers who will benefit, probably parents. So, and this is something which I think we have to actively look at. In other countries, not only in other countries, in our own country, we have in certain institutions looking at this problem. Then also there are other workplace grievances of lady lawyers, the way they are treated, discrimination. These must be looked at and remedied. And I think it is time we acknowledge that there are these issues. So even for instance, the issue of attire, we are still grappling with the issue of attire. There was a gazette which was released, which was promulgated but not implemented on attire. And ultimately you have sometimes predominantly male lawyers trying to determine what the attire of female lawyers should be. I think so these are matters which have to be looked at. I have set out quite a few proposals on this in my program of action.
So moving on from the proposals or the measures that will benefit the Bar Association, the membership of the Bar Association, to more of a national issue. We've been talking about a new constitution for quite a long time now. You said it's important to have a position on every matter, and those are the defining characteristics of a good leader. What is your position on the drafting of the new constitution, and what do you think the role of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka should be in this process?
Yeah, so I think the Bar Association must make its views known to the committee which is involved in preparing a draft constitution. And of course, we must also acknowledge that on certain issues, there are different views among the members of the Bar. So there may be certain issues which the Bar as an association cannot take up a particular position. So for instance, on devolution, there are members of the Bar who have views, who have a range of views.
Across the spectrum.
Across the spectrum. So I don't think we can, the Bar as an association, we can come to a conclusion on that. But there are certain issues which there cannot be any compromise. The rule of law, the independence of the judiciary, fundamental rights, the protection of fundamental rights. So those are something that the Bar should make its views known, and you must take up a position. And certainly on the composition of the judiciary, how is the court system, the hierarchy of the courts, what sort of courts must be there, all those the Bar Association should be able to intervene. So, but it must be done by a process. It's not the president of the Bar Association alone who can sit and he doesn't decree.
Can intervene.
Can intervene. It must be through the Bar Council, and it must be done judiciously. You must look at the issues, but certainly the Bar must take a position on constitutional amendments. The Bar cannot resile from that. The Bar cannot remain silent and say it's not our business. The Bar must be actively involved. In respect of course, constitutional making, we must understand that it is not only a lawyer's job. It is a job involving many sectors, and those sectors must all be involved in a constitutional making process.
So my final question to you would have usually been my first question. What is the reason behind your candidacy for the Bar Association presidency?
So Shalan, this is my 29th year in the Bar. I have, from day one, I have been actively involved in the activities of the Bar. Whether it be on issues of rule of law, on the independence of the judiciary, and also on other very practical measures such as the law conferences, so on. I was served as Deputy President of the Bar Association between 2015 to 2017. When Mr. Jeffrey Alagaratnam was President, I was a Deputy President. And in all these, as I told you at the beginning, I believe that the Bar has an important role. The Bar Association has a very important role to play in the lives of the legal profession. Firstly, to protect the rights of the lawyers. For instance, we have issues at the moment relating to the police, relating to prisons. We find lawyers are unable sometimes to freely visit their clients in the police. In the prisons, there are sometimes prison officers intervening to listen. Police are concerned. So you have to, then there are lawyers have issues in the registries, in the court registries, in the land registries, with provincial revenue authorities. So rights of the legal profession, the Bar must take up a position and actively intervene. If necessary, intervene even in court In fact, I as a lawyer, I have done that. Where lawyers' rights have been infringed by police, we have filed fundamental rights cases and intervened actively. And this, Shalan, historically, I can say that I have been involved. I have not started getting involved only at election time. I have been involved right, whether it 2012, when stones were thrown at the Manor courthouses, the impeachment of the Chief Justice. Against that, I took a very strong position. In fact, I acted as the spokesperson for the legal team, and we all of us together, we got all the junior lawyers involved in the issue against impeachment, down to other issues. So I say that the bar must take up a position. Firstly, as I said, rights of the profession. Secondly, on the rule of law, independence of the judiciary, protection of the rights enshrined by the Constitution. Thirdly, professional development of the legal profession, especially the young lawyers, that the bar must actively get involved. And I have been involved. I have on my professional level, I have had maybe 100 apprentices, juniors, and I have been involved in the training of lawyers for a long time. Fourthly, the bar must be involved in looking at the welfare of the legal profession. I have proposed a fund called the Lawyers Trust, a long-term fund, not an ad hoc fund, which I say has in certain other countries that has been adopted, and which can, so that and certain other welfare measures to help the members of the legal profession. So those are the 4 primary objectives, and I believe that I have the capacity to give the leadership to achieve those ends.
Thank you very much, President's Counsel Saliya Pieris, for joining us on our show, for accepting our invitation despite your busy schedule, especially with the Bar Association elections coming just around the corner. Of course, there are 2 candidates at this election, and we have extended an invitation to both candidates to join us on this show and make their positions and views regarding the Bar Association and other important matters here in Sri Lanka known to the membership of the Bar Association as well as to the general public. We will see you again, same time, same place next week. Until then, from the Role of Law, take care and God bless.